Hi guys, I'm Gasha. Welcome to the channel and welcome as always to our coffee times to discuss horror. Today I'm here to talk to you about Don't Breathe 2.
It's coffee time!
Before we jump into the spoiler-free movie review, if you don't follow me on Twitter or you don't follow my other channel, I'm just quickly gonna give you a live update. We ended up getting the house that we wanted, which means we are going to be moving at the beginning of December at some point. So I do have to pack everything here and I'm changing countries. It's a lot of paperwork, so I'm gonna be extremely busy. I'm gonna try to upload videos here and there as much as I can, but until I move to the new place, the content might not be as consistent as always, so I apologize for that. And also at some point the background is going to be gone because I really have to start packing all of those collectibles because it's going to take me a little bit, especially to pack all my Funkos, because they all have to go into their original box because it's shaped to that particular pop. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. But anyways, you guys, so I went to watch Don't Breathe 2 a little bit ago, and finally today I have time to sit down and give you my thoughts on the movie. To be fair, when I left the cinema I was a little bit conflicted about my feelings. I didn't know exactly how to feel about this movie, so it also took me a little bit to kind of process the film. When Don't Breathe came out and I watched it, I really enjoyed it because I thought it brought something a little bit fresh to the horror genre. It was an unexpected movie and it kind of got you thinking about, you know, how to decide if someone is good or is bad as things about that character are being revealed throughout the film. And I just really enjoyed the character exploration that the movie had, and it was a movie that was basically just based in one house and it never got boring. Now when I went to see part 2, I knew that a sequel of that movie was going to be complicated to make, but I kind of went with an open mind. Time to start talking about Don't Breathe 2. So this video is not going to contain spoilers for part 2, but I probably am going to spoil part 1 if you have not watched it yet, which I think it's fair because, I mean, if you want to hear about part 2, it basically takes off after the events of the first movie, so you're already kind of getting spoiled. I mean, the poster alone, it's a spoiler because you already seen the poster, and in the trailer the old man, so you obviously know that he survived part 1. Don't Breathe 2 is an American horror thriller film directed by Rodolfo Sagalles in his directorial debut, from a screenplay that he co-wrote with Fede Alvarez, the director of the first film. The film starts 8 years after the first film and we follow Norman. He lives now in an isolated cabin in the middle of the woods, and he is taking care of a little girl that he is raising up as if it was his own daughter. Their quiet life together is soon shattered as some individuals try to break into their home and try to kidnap the little girl. So Norman is going to be forced again to fight back in order not to lose his little girl. So in part 2, we are getting basically a reinterpretation of the first movie. It's kind of like the same formula, the same plot. We have Norman, we have some people that are trying to break in and are trying to take something really valuable from him. The only difference is that they're taking that first movie and they're making it bigger, they are expanding it, and we are getting to see Norman in different type of situations, also more outside of the house and in other locations. In the second movie, we are going to get introduced to more characters than we had in the first movie, and we are also going to get, like I said, more out of the house. We're going to get more scenes in daylight, and the movie is also going to get more bloody. Now, when it comes to the characters in this movie, let's start with the things that I liked. So the things that I liked is that most of the characters in this movie, if not all of them, are really morally gray. You don't really know if they're good people, if they're bad people. You are kind of like you had in the first movie. You're questioning who is good, who's in the right side, who's in the bad side. And I love, you know, when a director is challenging me to decide if a character is a character that I should be rooting for or not. However, even though I liked all of the new introduced characters and the fact that they were neither villains nor heroes, my problem and where the biggest conflict comes for me is in the relationship that Norman has with the little girl that he adopts called Phoenix. If you remember, at the end of part 1, we get that big twist, that big reveal about Norman's past and why he's hiding in the basement. And it was a really disturbing turn of events, and I actually really enjoyed it because I did not see that twist coming. However, what it meant is that I could no longer root for him as a character because of that, and I could no longer see him as the victim. His excuse is that Phoenix is safer, more protected if he's in the house with him, and even though I kind of felt a little bit for Phoenix as a character, and I think the little girl did a good job with such a challenging role, I did not agree with this movie trying to redeem Norman as a character and portray him here in this case as somebody that we perhaps should be rooting for. I just felt like a character like Norman could not be forgiven. Like, I'm not just gonna forgive and forget what happened at the end of the first movie. And for me, the relationship that we see in part 2 between Norman and Phoenix is problematic in the sense that you basically get here depicted Stockholm Syndrome. When it comes to the technical aspects of the movie, the production, I do think that they did a really good job. The movie is aesthetically pleasing. I really enjoyed especially most of the fight scenes. One of my favorite things was some long shots, some long tracking shots that we got once the break-in takes place at the beginning of the film. We got also the opportunity to get out of the house. We saw other locations, other places that I thought were really cool, and I really loved you know, the way that they looked. I just don't want to spoil much for you guys, but honestly, the first part of that home invasion kind of scenario is the part that felt more truthful, more kind of realistic, if you may. And after that, it just went a little bit more over the top towards the end. But the fighting scenes, the violence in this movie, it is really well choreographed, and I really did enjoy those scenes. So when it comes to the horror in this film, the horror aspects are obviously a home invasion scenario, plus all the violence that it is really elevated in part 2, and you're going to get to see some really nice gore that I was there for. So like I mentioned, the fight scenes were really good. They were really well choreographed. I love that every fight scene was a little bit different. You know, they were trying to be a little bit more versatile with that. And it is because that wide variety of locations, of type of fights, of, you know, making fights different and engaging, that is what really kept you involved in the movie and kept you entertained, because the majority of this film was action and not so much storyline. But the movie did a good job also to bring you some nice twists and turns from the beginning up until the very end. Now, was this a worthy sequel? Was this better than the first one? Was it better than the first one? Yes and no, I guess. If you take a look at it as a whole, I would say no, but it did have a lot more blood and gore that were really satisfying to me as a horror fan. However, it really lacked on the narrative, and they were trying to redeem a character and make a victim out of somebody that is basically a villain, and that didn't really quite work for me, because like I said, I found the relationship between Norman and Phoenix really problematic, and I don't feel like I don't feel like there's a way to make this guy a nice guy, even though he's portrayed in this second part also kind of like a superhero, unbeatable like in part 1. But I do not buy it that he is now a victim. As for my rating, I gave this movie a 2.5 out of 5. Like I said, really enjoyed the violence, especially towards the end, and there were some really nice disturbing twists that I was there for, but as a whole it lacked in many aspects, and I also need to be aware of those things. So I only gave it 2.5 out of 5. Do I think it's a horrible movie? No, but like I said, for me, the biggest problem was the conflict that I had with the main characters. It might have been that it was their intention to put people in a position where they don't know how to feel about these characters, you know, like I understand that, but I still could not stop thinking that this relationship was really problematic, and like I was conflicted throughout the whole film, and I still don't like that they tried to portray Norman as the good guy now. I feel like if you love the first one as much as I did, you are still gonna have a blast with part 2, because like I said, the violence and the gore are good, and also there are some nice disturbing twists and turns in the story, but don't expect it to be as good, as surprising as the first one was. They really tried, and it's not a bad movie, but I think it didn't really quite meet the expectations that we had, like the people that loved the first movie as much as I did. So let me know down below if you've watched part 2, what you thought of it. Did you also have a problem with the character of Norman? Let's discuss it down below. And as always, this is just my personal honest opinion. Of course, we can completely disagree here, but these are just my honest thoughts on the film. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please give the video a big thumbs up for support, and I hope to see you all as always in our next coffee time. Bye.